Yes, good evening. Welcome back to the Spurs Review, episode 43. And I have called this Spurs are lost from top to bottom. That's the polite way of me saying what an absolute shit show this club is right now. I am joined. I've mixed up the panel tonight. We've got some old school and some new school. We've got Lubo, of course. Lubo's always here. The Archie Gray fan club is here. How are you, Lubo? Are you well, my man?
Yes, as good as could be expected after last night.
Well, I mean, surely Spurs losing doesn't still affect you 24 hours later. Surely you're okay.
Unfortunately, it still wrecks my weekend.
Fair enough. Big up to Luke. Welcome back. He hasn't been. It's so funny, right? When Frank was doing well, this Ange lover, Luke, rejected my message every Sunday to come on, right? And now it's all crumbling. Luke was like, yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, I'm there. How are you, mate?
Not true. I came on every week last year when Ange was absolutely disgraceful. So still came on and took the abuse. But yeah, it's been a little while. Unfortunately, it's last few weeks have not gone great, but I'm sure we'll go into it. But yeah, Lubo, I can feel your pain, mate. I'm exactly the same. It ruins my weekend, even though I know exactly what's going to happen. It still ruins my weekend.
Well, don't worry, lads. Before I introduce Rain and Dan, don't worry. Spurs have got 2 games in the next 5 days, so we'll be able to ruin it just that little bit more. For anybody who hasn't got anything planned next Saturday, get yourself a night out planned for Saturday night. I feel like there might be a few fans that need some alcohol next weekend. Rain, welcome. You're making your, I mean, you join the members shows, but you're making your debut on the Spurs Review. How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you. Very well. I was there yesterday, and it certainly ruined my evening. As did the wonderful. I don't know. Is it TFL? TFL. I'm going to blame TFL for cancelling all my trains back up north. So I had to get an Uber back to where I parked my car north of the M25. Thank you very much. That really rounded off my night.
And by the way, Rain, if you want to know whose fault that was, Lubo will just blame Levy for the trains not working. He'll say it was Daniel Levy. And Dan Harris, Dan, you're always in the chat. You make great points. You're making your debut. How are you? You well?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Savva. I feel I'm a little bit like, that gif or that meme of the cartoon dog who's completely oblivious to the house burning behind him. I just feel like that at the minute. Just let it burn.
Yeah. Well, listen, it could be worse, Dan, because apparently everything going on at Spurs is my fault because I liked Thomas Frank. So just blame me. If all else fails, blame me. Guys, a lot to unpack in this show. Look, I think we're used to this. As Spurs fans, we're kind of used to utter shit shows. I don't mean one-off games. I mean, like, there's so much, guys. I'll unpack at the beginning and then we can talk about all of these different things. We are in a situation, guys, where the players are now coming out and apologizing after every game, right? The players are now calling out the fans. The manager has called out the fans. The fans are booing the players, not just at halftime or full time, during games, right? The stadium isn't full. The atmosphere is shit. We're not winning games. The home record is appalling. Everyone is beating us. And to make it nice and rounded, we've got Newcastle away next, followed by Brentford, who are banging form, and Frank's old club the game after that. Guys, let me start by asking this question. Anyone can start. We'll get into Frank. We'll get into the whole in-out thingy-majiggy. But this club, surely, let me start with you, Rain. Rain, I'll start with you. We were talking backstage. Surely, as much as we're going to have the conversation about Frank, this is not just a Thomas Frank thing, is it? This is players, fans, manager, stadium, owners. Like at the moment, everything feels like it's a bit of a massive clusterfuck. Where are you at with everything, mate? Nice open-ended question.
It was Jose's fault. It was Conte's fault. It was Ange's fault, and now it's Frank's fault. I think everybody needs to, like, on a weekly basis, go back and watch Conte's rant and remind themselves exactly what the truth bombs that he dropped on us were, because he was spot on then. He was spot on in the way that Poch was impacted, because it was true for Poch as well. It was Poch's fault. And he's still, what he said is still effectively right now. It just is. That's where we are as a football club. There's a lot of expectations that we all know. There's a lot of expectations in the fan base about how we are, where we should be, and what we should be doing as a club. And a lot of that is borne out by, I've got one of the cheapest season tickets in the stadium. It's still one of the most expensive season tickets in Europe, right? It's one of the cheapest in the stadium, one of the most expensive in Europe. Just get your head into that, right? And that level, that brings with it expectations to a lot of fans. And I have to say, I think there's a lot of inadvisable words being said by the players and by Frank. I think it's only going one way.
Yeah, let me bring in Dan. I'll get everyone's take, and then we'll just do a free for all. I don't like doing too structured. I'm a Spurs fan. We don't want structure, do we? Dan, it certainly does feel like I've tried to assemble a panel where there's going to be no kind of point scoring, because I think whatever happens, we're all Spurs fans and everyone's frustrated, Dan. But is it fair to say that we've seen this movie before and we kind of know, even though we're only 20 minutes into the movie, we kind of know how this ends? Is that harsh of me to say, or am I bang on the money?
I don't know why anyone's surprised, to be honest. Like, when has it not been an absolute mess since, like, the good days under Poch? You know, it's been like this sort of for 5 years now. And we seem to, I mean, you were saying it a couple of years ago that we get to the start of the new season and everyone sort of thinks that we're going to do something. And it's like, what has changed? Like, where's the evidence that it's going to be different? You know, it's, I think I put you on WhatsApp, but when you spend the last 5 years recruiting West Ham level players, why is anyone surprised that we're getting West Ham level results now? I don't think there's really a shock to be had. I said it last night when we were 20 minutes out from the game on your stream in the comments, and I'm not trying to be an I told you so person. I don't enjoy this, but I didn't expect us to beat Fulham. I know people keep going, oh, we should be beating Fulham. Based on what? It's not really a surprise anymore.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, Luke, let me come to you. And by the way, after this, I am going to show the type of 11 we're putting at now versus the type of 11 that fans think we're the level of. But Luke, forget Frank, forget Ange, forget Conte and Jose and Nuno, forget all that. It feels like there's something really systemically wrong at this football club. Like we literally can't do 4 months of a new manager's tenure without there being huge drama. Half the fan base want the manager out. The other half are saying patience. We've got some fans that say we just need a winner in charge. Other fans don't care about that. They just want to see entertaining football. We're a mess, aren't we, Luke? Like, we're a mess.
I mean, it's Tottenham Hotspur. This is what we're great at. We're great at there being, even when there's nothing really going on, we find ways of being very entertaining. I think I'm not going to keep on about the old managers and things like that, but I think the split there was a big split last year, and I feel like this year was always going to happen. I kept saying it doesn't matter who's in charge. If Ange was here, there would have been a huge amount of the fan base saying he should never be here, and no matter what happened, it was going to be negative. And then same with Frank. There was a lot of people that backed Ange and basically didn't want Frank in the first place, so it was almost going to be like a tit for tat regardless. This obviously started off quite well. Performances were not great, but we was picking up points. But I've always said if you don't play in an attacking way or play with intent, then soon as things start going wrong, that's the first thing people jump on. You get a little bit more play if you're looking to do the right things, if you're trying to dominate, you're trying to win. I always felt with Spurs, even though we don't win things consistently, I've always felt that we are at our best when we're pressing, when we're attacking, when we're going for teams. Because even under teams like Conte and Mourinho, I still didn't feel confident when we was defending. I just didn't ever feel like when the ball was near our goal, we was just always going to concede because we're that sort of club. So I think the whole thing with the fan base, I think most of it's because there's no plan. There's no structure at this club where you can see where people are going. And I know you said don't mention the last set of managers, but if you go through last 10...
you can. I'm just saying I wasn't. Purely because, Luke, every time I wake up, right, this is every day I wake up, I check I turn my YouTube comments off, by the way. Otherwise, as a YouTuber, my phone would ping all day long. I go on, have a little look at the comments, and the number of people that can't talk about Tottenham without mentioning Conte or Ange or all these other managers that haven't done anything, so that was what I meant. Sorry.
No, but what the thing is that you look at all of them managers, like the last 10, just say as a rough example, and look at how do they go about winning football matches, what is their style, and every single one of them is different. So how are you supposed to have any idea in terms of what we should expect when every single idea that we're bringing in, the manager's completely different? We're bringing in Nuno, who turns around and says, I'm going to play great attacking football, make you all proud. But you've never done that. So are we asking you to come in and do something you've never done before? Why would you do that? It's like bringing in a striker and playing them centre-back. It doesn't make any sense. So I feel like part of this is we need to understand where we want to go. And then obviously there's loads of conversations in a fan base about people being good enough, players, managers, whatever. Well, where do we expect ourselves to be? If we expect us to be a top 10 team, then everything probably is good enough. But if we want to be a top 4 team, which I think is way out of our league at this moment in time, I think that's part of it as well. Because of the win a European trophy finish in 17th, I think as a club, we don't really understand where we should probably be at. So it's quite difficult to then gauge it because look at it negatively. Obviously, it's been negative results, but with one win, we go up to 7th, 6th place, I think it is, which is where everyone said we probably would be. So you can't then next week, if we win, all of a sudden we're bang on. Do you know what I mean? So it is really difficult. I think that clear direction in terms of what Tottenham want to be, where we're going to go, how we're going to play, I think it needs to come from the very top. And obviously, it's very difficult to do that in a 6 month. Like they've only just started since the summer, really.
We're 1 win off 6 and 1 defeat off 15th.
and this is it. Such a difficult.
Make of that what you will. With Newcastle away next. Look, let me bring in Lubo, and then we'll do a bit of a free for all. Lubo, when you called me yesterday called into the show yesterday from the ground, you said, I believe this is word for word, but maybe paraphrasing a little bit, that if we lose this game, you're going to really question the quality of these players overall. Something like that you said. I mean, how many games, how many managers, how many years do we have to see these players put in performances like this before we stop pretending that we should be a top 4 team anymore? There's my question to you.
Well, it's just Luke touched on it just now. You know, we change managers and coaches so often that maybe not so much with Frank because Ange brought in 18 players in 2 years, but you know there are players from previous managers, from Conte, from Nuno, even Davis back with Poch, and you know each manager is different. Each manager has a different way of playing. Each manager has a different player profile. So you're getting managers with different players with different skill sets for different systems. And it's like, you know, do you want him to have, you know, you build a house, you're going to have the same colour brickwork throughout. You know, we're not doing that. What we're doing actually is we're saying to the manager, right, there you go and build your house now. So you start building, and you build first part of the walls, and then the manager goes, and then you take it all down again. So I'm not sure how we ever get going until we give a manager, whoever it is. I'm not saying Frank is the right person. Yeah. To be honest, I don't know.
Somebody's got to have some time, right, Lubo?
That's right.
Somebody.
That's right.
Otherwise, we're going to end up paying at this rate like £30 million a year in sacking 3 managers a season. Like, right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we paid 17 million in the summer, didn't we, to get rid of Ange and bring in Frank and his team?
Yeah.
Which actually, you know, in the overall scheme of things, when you think of 55 for Kudus, 52 for Simmons, and the manager is probably the most important member of the club, of the playing staff, you know, of the football side, then that, you know, for me, it's always been amazing. You know, when you hear that a club won't pay a release fee for a manager and his team, I find it incredible, you know, because he is more important. He's the guy he's the conductor, basically, you know, in an orchestra. So until we work through the shit times and give a manager a chance, and, you know, talking to Frank now, you've got the transfer window next month, well, nearly 5. Where are we now? 30th of November. Start, the month's time.
So we've got 31 days, right?
Yeah. So, you know, we've got to, you know, hopefully by then he'll have Kulu back. He'll have Dragerson back. He'll have Solanke back. Maybe Basuma as well. So you get
in your opinion, Lupo, in your opinion, though, sorry, and we can talk about this, guys. In your opinion, does he get there? Because when you look at, listen, you know me, I'm not sitting here saying sack him. I am sitting here saying, though, that the results will become untenable, and we're not a patient bunch, and it's going to become untenable for him. Though we've got Newcastle away, and let's be brutally honest, I don't know about you guys on the panel. I've literally got that down in the notebook as no points, and we've then got a game at home to Brentford, who look a good outfit at the moment. If he loses those 2 games, Lubo, I'm not saying we should sack him, but do you think he makes it if he loses another 2 in a row?
Probably at odds with most people. I do think they'll keep him.
Okay.
You know, Vinay supported Arteta through the first 2 difficult years that he had. I think the difference between Arteta and Frank at the moment, and this is something that for me is absolutely key with Frank, is that you could see with Arteta what he wanted to do. There was, you know, they had an identity.
Yeah.
There is no identity to our play at the moment, and I think he's got to get a grip on that. He's got to stop with the constant changing, because we don't have time to put all of his different plans into work, because there's no time. There's no training, no training. It's all about recovery, getting ready for the next match, and which is every 3 or 4 days at the moment. You know, at least this week and next week coming. So I think if he can get that sorted, and he can say, right, okay, I'm going to run with this style, this system. These are the players. These are the sort of 12, 13 players that I really want to focus on for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Let's see how it goes. Then I think that's the way. I think that's the way forwards. You know, but he's playing a different system virtually every game.
Yeah. So let me ask him, the rest of you. Does anyone believe that if he loses the next 2 that he's gone? And also, I'll throw a caveat in there. Something my uncle said to me earlier on. He said, what will seal his fate will be if he cops a 6, i.e., like, do you remember when AVB got battered by
Liverpool 5-0?
Right. And, you know, when it was like his actual results weren't horrendous for the 10, 15 games leading into that, but he lost. Do any of you guys think that he does get the sack if he loses the next 2? Or is this
I don't think he will. I don't think he will, because if you're these new owners and you've come in and you've made all these big points about, you know, throwing like that cash injection and Vinay saying we want to win stuff and all that kind of thing, does your do you want to leave your first impression as like, we're just doing what the guy before did, which is sack all the managers? Surely they want to kind of make a point that we're doing things differently now. And a big statement of doing it differently would be to say, no, we're going to back this manager. I mean, the only caveat, and I've heard a few people say this, is Frank is technically like not their manager because Levy picked him. So they could use that as a bit of an out and, say like, he's not our guy, we're going to pick our guy. But I think it would be a strange move to make from a new look hierarchy that wants to kind of make this point that we're doing it differently. But I just had one little question for just in general. What happened to everyone last season going, it's a project? That was on last season's bingo card, wasn't it? Every week. Calm down, it's a project. Where's that gone? Why has that stopped?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting one, Dan, and we'll bake this into the conversation. I think it's interesting that we all use words like project, not Spurs. I think football fans in general, we love the words projects and phase and process, and build is another word, and rebuild is another word. But when it actually comes to that, do any of us really, as football fans, have the stomach for it? Like, don't get me wrong, it's shit. I don't think any of us could sit here right now and go, it's brilliant. But are we all too impatient?
Well, it's also the Europa League, right? If we didn't win that and we'd have lost the Europa League final and finished 17th, right now people won't be thinking it's as bad as it is because we were so bad last year. Now people are going to go, well, we're European champions, we're in the Champions League. So it depends on where you're at as a club for me. But I think some of the key differences in some of them tenures, and Lubo mentioned it earlier, in terms of Arteta, is I don't think it's solely on results here. I think the performances are absolutely key. Like if we go to Newcastle and we lose 4-3, but we've absolutely gone for it, we've been attacking, we've created chances and we've just lost, then that's a different thing. Like for me, I just feel like you can't see what is Frank's targeting to do. It looks to me like he's just relying on Kudos to try and create something. Everything seems to be crossing. Like I think the stat about the through balls the other week was like we've done 4 in the whole of the season. Like it's just there needs to be more from it. And I think when I first came onto YouTube on this channel last year, when you mentioned about Ange and saying like how many more results does it have to be, I said to you, performances are also key in this. It's not just about the results. You can go and lose to Newcastle, you can go and lose to these top teams, but there needs to be a way of doing it. And to just roll over and get beat by some of the teams that we seem to be doing, like Fulham yesterday, just rolled over. It was just a non-event basically. I think that's the key part, and I think that's where I struggle with. I sympathise and understand why the fans are getting so annoyed in the stadium. Like I just don't understand why the players don't quite get it. It looks to the fans like nobody's bothered. So why would they not boo? Like it's. I personally don't boo. I don't think it helps anyone, but people have the right to do that. They have absolutely every right to do that, especially when we're seeing the same performances week in, week out. And if you listen to the press conferences and you watch what they say on Instagram, if they put as much passion into that as they did on the pitch, we might be in a better situation. So I think we have to start seeing in the next few games, a clear idea of what Frank really wants. And I think part of that is settling down the squad and making sure that we're trying to develop these combinations in the team, because he's chopping and changing it far too much for me. And I think people can't get settled.
Luke, do you think some of these...
Luke, do you think Wednesday you saw it in Paris? Do you think you saw it in Paris, more of an identity?
Yeah, yes, I think we did in a way, but very much so that I would expect pretty much loads of... Like, we're not a top team. We're not going to go to PSG, and even if we want to like Ange ball, let's use that as the example. You're never going to play that against PSG, so you're going to have to sit back and defend anyway. So it comes part of, was that the game plan to play like that, or was it actually PSG just absolutely dominated and then we just done that? So I think it depends on, you can't utilize that as a strategy against Fulham at home. You can't. That can't be your strategy. That can't be your way of playing. Is allowed to be dominated and try and counter or whatever that may be. Spurs are not that club. That's just not going to happen. I've always said this. It don't matter where we are in the table. It don't matter whether we've won something or we haven't. We can't be a team that sits back at home and lets lesser teams dominate. Fans just won't have it. We're a different breed for that reason.
But does anyone think that this increasingly bad home form is because they're lining up in the tunnel, anxious, like scared to go out there and perform in front of a cauldron of negativity? Like, there must be so much pressure on them. I'm not excusing some of the sort of silly mistakes that professionals should be able to do regardless of like pressure, but it just seems like every game they must be going out there just like scared to play. They look rattled.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if that's all strategy. It just looks like they are rattled, but they go away. And as Lubo kind of alluded to in the PSG game, they looked a little bit more free.
We've hit quite a lot of points. I've been trying to make some notes. We've hit quite a lot of points. I'm just going to address what my opinion of what Dan has just said, because I'm absolutely clear that there is a good reason why we have a better away form than we have a home form with these players. They get a lot of support from the away fans. Our away fans are incredibly positive. They keep going. In the summer, as a long-term season, like 10 years I've been a season ticket holder. I started at Wembley. I was a Wembley intake. And I am absolutely clear that there's a level of anxiety in our fan base in the stadium that is just bubbling, and it's just waiting. It's there. It's just waiting for something to happen, and then it kicks in. I'm very lucky. When I was growing up, I went every Saturday to watch, every other Saturday to watch my non-league team. That was what I used to go and watch. I'd sneak under the turnstile or pay my quid if I got caught. And we, as a non-league team, got promoted, got relegated. Sometimes there were only 50 people there. Sometimes there was like a couple of thousand. I saw, the ups and the downs, and I don't think a lot of our fan base has. I think a lot of our fan base has a level of expectation, whether right or wrong, that we should win every game. They don't believe in a project. They don't believe that the team needs to be built. They believe that we spend a lot of money and we should be fighting at the top of the table. I don't think we're there. I think what Dan said was absolutely right. One of the best players we bought this season was a West Ham player, and he's our best player. He's one of our best players, right? It's not like we're buying West Ham players for our squad. We're buying West Ham players to be one of our best players. That's the reality of where we are.
Rain, can I ask you something? So off the back of that, as a season ticket holder, I'd love to get your take on this. For me, from what I can see, it feels like the atmosphere has been getting worse year on year since we first moved into the stadium. And I just wondered, and obviously it start with Rain and everyone can have their say on this. Is there a correlation for you between the atmosphere getting worse and worse year on year and the level of the squad getting worse and worse year on year? Because I think this is definitely from an attacking and midfield perspective, we're getting weaker and weaker. 6-7 years ago, when that Poch team started to get dismantled, you still had the main components at the top end. So you were still going to get away with it, right? You still had Eriksen, you still had Son, you still had Kane, right? So you got away because there were creators, loads of goals, loads of assists. Now I feel like we've got none of that. I feel like we've got none of it. So is there a correlation between the lack of quality players that the fans are seeing in the stadium and the atmosphere over the last few years?
I think it's always been there. I know there's a lot of nostalgia about White Hart Lane. I remember going to games against White Hart Lane, games at White Hart Lane, and the anxiety being there. I remember it quite vividly. I also remember times when the stadium roared. I remember this one time when the stadium roared and Pavlyuchenko picked up the ball in the halfway line, roared. The stadium roared, and I will never forget this. And he took the ball forward 20 yards and smacked it in the top right-hand corner. And I've always looked back at that and thought, that's what a 12th man can do for a player and for a team. You know, I'm absolutely convinced that he was buoyed by the stadium at White Hart Lane. But the first season, first season at New White Hart Lane, Tottenham Stadium, whatever you want to call it, was really good. There was loads. It was really, you know, everyone was excited. It was, I think it was the Conte season, if I'm really honest, where it all went toxic. You know, you had the Sanchez booing, and the cracks started to open up, and they've never been filled.
It's a vicious circle, isn't it? Because, like, if the Poch team's up here, the best team we've seen for a little while, as the team gets worse, the performances get worse. And as the performances get worse, the atmosphere gets worse. And as the atmosphere gets worse, the negativity gets worse. And then that impacts the performances further. And it just goes like that, doesn't it?
But Dan, can I ask you, does that base off, and this is kind of where I wanted the conversation to go, right? In terms of talking about the stadium, the fans, the players, you know, because I think there's a lot of, when we talk about blame, I think there's a huge blame pie. And I know as fans, and I've been guilty of this in the past, I'm sure you all have, the blame always goes on the manager fully, right? Because first of all, it's an easy one for the fans. It's an easy one for the board because they use it as a shield, like Sean said last night. Say, oh, well, we've messed up, but don't worry, it's this guy. Put this guy in front of the media. Yeah, it's him. And it's the easiest thing to do. You sack a manager, you bring someone in, you buy yourself goodwill with the fans. But Dan, I'll ask you this. As the quality has got lesser of the players, right, has the fans' expectations changed? Because what I see when I look at Spurs fans every summer, I see the comments in my YouTube shows, people still talk like we are one of the top four. And yes, under Poch, we very much were, right? Under Poch, for 4 years, we were very much, yeah, we're going to do something because we've got a bloody good team. I still think fans are stuck in that mindset, Dan. And I'm going to show you something, right, to prove this, right? This is the team under Pochettino. This was Poch's team in its peak, right? This was Poch's team in its peak. So a top-class keeper, a top-class back four. I mean, that centre-back pairing is one of the best I've ever seen at White Hart Lane, right? Dembele is one of the best midfielders I've seen in my time. Obviously, you know, the likes of Hoddle and Gazza and that, but Dembele was a Modric, but Dembele was class. Wanyama was an absolute brilliant DM. And then Eriksen, Dele, Son and Kane was a frightening front four. Now, if you fast forward 7 years, Dan, this is what we put out last night, right?
I can't believe that was 7 years ago.
7 years ago.
It
right?
feels like 40.
Right. Now, fast forward 7 years, right? This is the 11 we're putting out now in games. Can you understand, Dan, why fans are frustrated? And also, can you understand why fans also need to temper their expectations as to what they think players like this can achieve compared to what the lot Poch had?
I think, firstly, that level of team that you've got up there, it's unacceptable. You know, considering the size of the club, the amount of money that we have, we should be doing better. So that's on the recruitment. It's been awful. But I think we've been spoiled as a fan base. We're like, a lot of them are like spoiled, privileged children that they saw the Poch era and they thought that this is how it is at this club. So they can't handle the fact that things aren't like that anymore. So they just have this sort of this feeling like we have this right to be, you know, up there in the top 2 or 3. And, you know, we talk about it like a lot of the fan base that have that attitude seem to be quite young. There are people, you know, friends my age, some of my mates. So I'm 32. I've got friends same age, and they weren't really into football at school. They were sort of Spurs fans, and a lot of them got into it in the Poch days because it was good. So they don't remember anything before that. So again, they've only known it, as it was at its best in recent times. Whereas I talk to people like my dad, and he's, similar sort of age to Lubo. He's seen it all. So he's seen us at our best. He's seen us at our worst. He didn't grow up privileged with, just good things from Spurs. So he's kind of like, well, yeah, I've seen this. Football works in cycles. I know how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, look, Lubo. I mean, look, I know it's difficult, right? Because any club could probably put out a great 11 they once had, or a very good 11 they once had, and base it against their current 11. But when you look at Arsenal, City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man United down the year, these teams have constantly reinvented, right? You could go down the years over the last 20, 25, 30 years and pluck out a number of Man U 11s that are quality, right? Chelsea the same, Liverpool, City, Arsenal. This was our 11 that really stands out to most fans. And like Dan points out to a lot of the younger generation as well. How far away are we from that? In your mind, when we've got fans going, I think we can challenge Chelsea for top 4. And I think this team should be challenging for the top 4. What do you make of that? And how far away from that are we in reality?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't watch any football this afternoon, but I was getting texts like, I got one from you, I got one from an old customer of mine who's based in Spain, just saying, are you watching the game? I said, no. He said, look at these two teams, Chelsea and Arsenal.
Oh.
Look at he said there's not an amazing amount of skill because of the intensity and the fierceness of the game. It sounds like it was a battle. He said, but look at the effort these guys are putting in compared to us. And, again, I sound like a broken record. It comes from the top. You've got the owners of Chelsea and Arsenal that both desperate to win the Premier League. We don't have that. I hope we have it. I hope that the Lewis kids keep their words, and I hope that what they've said so far is the truth and not a load of bullshit. Because if it's bullshit, then I'll be on that. I'll be on the demos with Billy T and Sean and Stell and Brian even more than ever, because Levy and Joe Lewis never hid the fact that they were in to make money and not for football. If the football came along, if something happened, then great, terrific, but that wasn't really their priority. We've got to make it our priority. And first, for me, it comes from the top. If the people at the top start showing intent, then that's the start. Then they will talk to experts, and they will make sure that the people they're bringing in are top people. The way that Sheikh Mansour at Man City brought in the guy from Barcelona, Tiki,
Tiki Bruckenstein,
something like that. And
a lot of
City,
in that name.
He came from Barcelona, knew his stuff, when it came to being in that. Yeah. Funny enough, although Pep didn't join for another 7 years, but they had they had Mancini in, who won a league, didn't they? And it starts there and it works its way down. And I think we've all got to be patient. I think the fans have got to realise exactly where we are. If fans are like shouting and screaming, saying, "Oh, this is crap, this is rubbish," they've got to just simply compare this team to what we had with Poch, that team that you put out, that team peaked in 2017. The 16-17 year, we finished second with 86 points, dropped 4 points at home. That was the year that we left the lane. And just compare it, and that will show you how far away we are at the moment. So keep the expectations down. Try and keep them realistic. And that way you won't be too disappointed with what's going on. I'm sure Frank knows the caliber, what's lacking. with his squad. The lack of
midfield.
quality.
Whole midfield.
These guys. No, but Dan, throughout the whole thing, we haven't got cover for Mickey. We don't have cover for Udogie. We don't have cover for Plinio. We don't have cover for Kudus. We got no left. We got no 11. We got no 10. We got no 9 at the moment that's scoring regularly. We've got no 8 at all. So there's 8 players already. So we probably need 15 for the squad.
Lubo, can I say, Lubo? I think you're right. I think we're miles off it. Like when people say to me things like, "Oh, we're just missing a midfielder, a left winger, and a striker," I genuinely laugh because maybe I'm harsh. I look at this team and go, "This team needs 2 new fullbacks." Like I'm talking about if we want to have, and I'll come to you, Luke. If we want to have a good team, a really good team that plays well. And I know fans don't want to hear this because we're so used to overrating average footballers. But this team needs a much better goalkeeper, right? 2 fullbacks, proper fullbacks, not wing backs who have been chucked in at fullback and aren't very good at defending. We need a whole new midfield, a top quality striker, and a centre forward. Now, that's just for the 11. For me, Luke, for me to compete with City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool's 11, that's where I think we need to be. But Luke, that's going to take years. That's going to take years and years. And I just don't think we've got the stomach to wait for it. Or is it because we know it won't happen?
Yeah, we're nowhere near that level. We're nowhere near that level at this moment in time, and it's not. You're not going to have a quick fix. I kept saying when people were talking about top 4 and things like that, that was on the basis that someone drastically fell off. Like it weren't about almost not. Don't worry about yourselves. You've got to worry about everyone else dropping off before you get a chance at that. So we're in the Villa, we're in the Newcastle, we're in that batch before looking up, and we've still got to improve. I mean. Talk about I didn't watch the Arsenal and the Chelsea game. I watched bits of it, but I watched Newcastle and I watched Tonali and I watched Bruno Guimaraes, and I'm like that is levels above what we.
How have they got that and we've assembled what we put out yesterday?
Yeah. Like, and even their striker Walter Mardar, like I watched him and I watched him for 5 minutes and was like, he's a baller. He's like what? How have we not looked at that and gone? Is he got the physicality for the Premier League? Well, he's 6'6", so you'd hope so. And it's easy to do that in theory, but these are the sorts of things that we need to get right, and we've needed to get these right for 10 years. I mean, again, I came on last year and was saying that there's so many problems at this club. Medical staff are wrong. What is the attitude at the top? And Dan mentioned it about the new ownership coming in. This is the same ownership, like. I'm not giving them that where people have kind of gone, oh, we'll give them this grace. Like if Levy was reporting into them and Levy was the one that was constantly shortchanging all the time, then as the boss, you turn around and go, why are you doing this? We've got the money. They was clearly happy with what Daniel Levy was producing because the numbers were fantastic. So I think it's been so easy for us to just turn around and go, oh, it's a new dawn, it's a new day. No, they were happy. They were the owners. They were the ones that were in charge. They were the ones that Levy would have had to report to. And they were happy with what he was doing because he was bringing in so much money. Now they might decide that they want to go down a different route, which is absolutely fine. But there needs to be far much more that goes on. Like when Lubo talks about the amount of money spent under Ange, there was a huge amount, but a lot of that was in the first window. And then when you go back to the next 3 windows afterwards, we brought in 1 player to improve that 11. Now, I've said this on your show so many times, keep bringing in squad players. You don't improve your 11 by bringing in squad players. And that's all we've done.
You've always said that. You've always said that, and it's the one thing I don't like a lot about you, but that's the one thing I do like about you that you've said, Luke. You're right. On a serious note, you're absolutely right. If you keep bringing in average footballers, your club doesn't change from being average. Mm-hmm. And the problem is the reason why I think we all hang on to this Pochettino 11 is right now not one of our squad would get in above that 11. I'll put it up on the screen again. I'll argue this with anyone. Not one of our players right now gets in this. I don't want to hear Romero and Van der Ven. They're nowhere near Alderweireld and Vertonghen, right? Vicario's nowhere near Lloris. Carl Walker is 100 times the fullback Pedro Porro is, right? This is a team we had put together And slowly but surely, we have managed to replace every one of those positions. And you think, if I'm not wrong, Son in the summer was the last one of that 11 to go, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And we didn't even replace the last member of that team outgoing. You think, right, when Ericsson left, and Ericsson, by the way, I think people underestimate just how bloody good. I bet she's forgotten her key. 1 second, she's forgotten her key. Someone talk. I'll come back.
I was just going to say just about replacing players, right? We replaced Gareth Bale with Gareth Bale on loan 7 years later.
Yeah,
like this is what Spurs do, and this is what I keep saying about having a plan in terms of with Son. Everybody knew 3 years previous that Son was going to have to be replaced, and we effectively got to the summer of him needing to be replaced with still no replacement. And it wasn't like it was a huge drop-off where one season he was unbelievable and then the next year you needed to replace him. A little like Salah's going through that at this moment in time where unbelievable last year, so you don't need a replacement. All of a sudden he's fallen off a cliff. Son was declining for 3 years and no one at the club went, do you know what? Maybe, just maybe we need to find a new left winger here. And this is what all of the top clubs, this is what they do unbelievably well. United, you could even argue, got rid of players just that bit too early because they was already on the replacement where they was getting rid of one and someone else was on the up. And this is where we and that Poch team is exactly it. All we've done is get that team and gradually go and get worse and worse and worse.
Look,
and then we sit there and wonder why.
It was all of them. Sorry, I had to get the front door. It's all of them, right? You think Ericsson left in Blue Bell time 2019? Maybe, I don't know, I want to say 2019, 2020. Right, whichever year Ericsson left in.
I think it was.
When did Spurs next go and buy a playmaker? Wasn't it James Maddison about 3 years later? Right? Yeah. Spurs replaced people like Toby Alderweireld and Jan Vertonghen with players like Clement Longley and Joe Rodon, right? We replaced Danny Rose with people like Ryan Sessegnon, right? Dembele was never replaced. Replaced. Ericsson never replaced.
You mentioned Salah. How long do you think it's going to take them to replace him when he leaves?
They will go out and buy somebody top class.
I think they've already started
straight away.
They're already started to do that with Wirtz. They're bringing in Wirtz to bring they're not replacing him directly, but he's coming in to get the assists to bring up. So they've already looking at it. People go, why did they spend so much money? Because they know Salah's about to go. They know that Salah's not going to be here for 3-4 years. So they've gone and got Isaac. They've gone and got Ekatike. They've gone and got Wirtz to say next year, once they've had a year settled and Salah's probably dipping again, these guys are ready to take that mantle on. That's what you have to do as a big club. There has to be a revolution. Look, I mean, Manchester City lost Kevin De Bruyne. They was like, he's not it anymore. We're going to go and get someone else. And all right, they're not at the levels they were. But that is what you have to do. You have to look at the manager comes in. A manager has a tenure of 2 years. That's roughly what seems to happen. So there has to be someone above him that goes, what in the third year, what in the fourth year, where are we going? And this is another reason why you go from Nuno, the way that he plays, Conte, Mourinho, all of these different formations. You're bringing in players that don't suit managers. Then you're trying to change everything up. It doesn't work. There needs to be a clear vision in terms of what we're going to do.
They're all proactive, aren't they? They're all proactive with football players, and our club is proactive with real estate and nothing else.
So the one thing that I would say about the first team that Savva's put out is that was the first team, right? And Poch managed it very, very well. Underneath this was a pile of crap. Underneath this was Fabio, Bimmer, Sissoko when he was rubbish, right? When I absolutely Vincent Janssen instead of
Sanchez,
right? Josh Onomah was one of our attacking midfielders, and got game time. But you know, this was a really good first 11, but our club has always had paper thin squads, and now we've got
Rain. Now we don't even have the first 11.
Well,
now we don't even have the first 11 now, Rain.
Yeah.
And we've always had star quality, right? Like that's what I've always said about Spurs. Like obviously up until Poch, we was always a mediocre Premier League team effectively, right? But if you was to name your 1 to 11 in the Premier League era, you're still talking like Ginola, you're still talking unbelievable footballers. We've always had that star quality, even though we weren't the best. We always somehow had a Bow or a Modric or someone that was just ridiculously good. And now you look at it and go, actually, if you was to do your 1 to 11 and your best Premier League, you're probably fielding 4 11s before you start getting to the current team. Like Kane.
This is the point I was trying to make with the Sun thing, right? This is the point I was trying to make. Tottenham Hotspur knew going into this summer that Son was leaving. We knew Son was leaving. That didn't happen overnight. We knew Son was leaving. They had the whole South Korea match booked in that he's got to play in. We knew he was leaving. Most football clubs with that happening would have had a short list of players, right, drawn up, or would have gone, right, he's definitely leaving. This is our absolute priority. You cannot let we knew he had to go. We knew he'd been doing that as a player for a few years, but you've still got to replace him. Spurs get to the end of a summer transfer window, and the replacement essentially was either Odegaard or Tell. Like, who does that? And then we've got fans going, you know what? I think we could get top 4. And you're like, but what? Look at the players we're signing. We've gone from Kane and Son to Richarlison and Odegaard. Like, the levels are frightening. This is like going to eat at the nicest restaurant in London, and then the next day I'm going down the Greasy Spoon. I'm going to have a £6 fry up from the Greasy Spoon. We are, but there's always an excuse for it.
There's too many
zero excuse.
Too many examples, Sav. We spent a summer selling Harry Kane, a whole summer.
Yeah.
And Ange made it absolutely 100% clear. He knew that Harry Kane was not going to be at his club. And we replaced him with Dominic Solanke a year later. Year later.
When Kane
Newcastle spent a year trying not to let Ivan go, and they replaced him with Walter and Wissa, and they've got them working.
But this is why I keep saying it. Everyone, like, it depends on where you think Spurs are or what the kind of, like, it was mentioned by Jamie Redknapp when Harry Redknapp had conversations with the board. There was never a mention about going into a to winning anything. It was always, let's get top 4, let's get top 4. So what is the remit here? Like, what is the remit for Thomas Frank to come in? Is the remit to come in and go, all you've got to do is improve these players and make them a top 8 team? That's all you need to do. That's all we want you to do. That's all we're going to push to do. Or is it, we want to become a top 4 team in 2 years, so we're going to target... I think it's a bit harsh on Kudos personally, what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from in terms of signing the West Ham players, but there were plenty of clubs that were looking. Arsenal were saying, why have we not gone for Kudos? Why have we gone for Madueke instead? So I think that's all part of it. I think the way Kudos started the season, I think he needs to play with better players, and therefore he is probably our best forward. So, but if you're starting to target these level of players consistently, you'll bring the quality of the squad up, and we will then start becoming a decent force. But it depends on whether that's going to happen again in January. So we missed out on the Savinho. Is that 70 million going to be spent this year? Is that going to be spent in January? Is it going to be left? Are we going to be... And that's another thing. In terms of like budgets, people were screaming about signing Walton for 100 million. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, actually, we could probably get 2 for 50 that might make better use of the squad. But what we don't go and get them, it was like Son. I said Son should be going. We should be selling Son, and someone should be coming in to replace him. It wasn't let's sell Son and not replace him. It's because it just doesn't make any sense. You've got Odegaard. They've proved that they are players that might come off the bench and make an impact. That might be what they are able to do. They should never be starting in a top 5 or 6 Premier League team. They simply shouldn't. And again,
look, when you look when I put this up, right? When you look at that 11, I genuinely listen. I know Romero suspended, right, for this game, and we can talk about Kulu and Maddison, but we knew Maddison was going to miss the season, so we can't really talk about him for this year. We knew Kulu's going to. We know Kulu's going to be out, I believe, until Jan, Feb. So by the time he's up to speed, we're what, March, April, right? So we knew we were going to be missing those two. And we're in just one day off December. And this is the sort of 11 we are having to field in the Premier League. 2 teenagers in midfield, right? Richarlison is still up front for Tottenham. I don't know how. Kolo Muani on loan, who joined us, not fit. And Adogi and Porro, who I've been told for years how great they are, but I've never seen them actually play great. This is how far we've fallen, Luke. This is what
I
we
agree.
are as a football
But
club.
this comes down to the recruitment. You look at, like, you're talking about Richarlison. In fairness, Spurs don't want Richarlison. Spurs want to get rid of him. But we've recruited so poorly that we can't get rid of him. Basuma, we've recruited so poorly in terms of like wages and things like that. People don't want these players. So if you get the recruitment better, then you can either sell players on to bring in better players when you're then ready to take that next step, or you're bringing in players that you don't need to replace because they're good enough to go and get. I mean, if you look at the numbers in terms of what's been spent, and we're talking about fans. When you look at any optics in terms of costs, in terms of wage, or not so much wages, but money spent on players, season tickets, we should be in the top 5 all of the time. Absolutely, we should be, because we're spending £60 million, but we're spending it on Richarlison.
So let me ask you a question. And to everyone as well. So I want to move this towards the whole Thomas Frank and what happens if a new manager comes in, right? Obviously hypothetical. Look, right now, and then I'll go round to Dan, to Rain, to Lubo. Where is our squad in terms of Premier League rank for you? Not the money spent, talking about for quality. Where are we? Because for me, I think that we are about 8th, 9th, 10th in terms of quality. And that's if everyone's fit.
I think it's easy to say now we're on a bad run of form. I think this squad is between 5th to 7th, personally. I think that Newcastle and Villa are better than us when they've got their best teams out. No doubt about it. But obviously, over the course of a season, playing Champions League, where you go, are you in cups, that sort of thing comes into it. Obviously, United, they're on a decent run at the moment. I think if they'd have won today, they go near the top 4. But actually, they was 15th or 16th a couple of weeks back. So I think 5th to 7th. I think that's where this squad should be playing. But again, is that with Kulu, Maddison? Is that with all of those boys being fit though? No, I think I know what you're saying about the team, and I completely agree with you. But Simmons should be starting in that team. There shouldn't be a world in which Simmons doesn't start in that team. And again, I think it's down to intent, and it's about going out and showing some sort of purpose to say we're here and we're going to go and try and dominate games. So I agree with you exactly what you're saying. But there will be clubs that are, like, as I say, Villa and Newcastle, I think are above us right now, and then you've got the top 4, so that takes 7th. There will be other teams that, like Palace, for instance, they might go on good runs, but they also might go and lose a few games. Like Newcastle, Man United are absolutely poor, but they beat Palace today. So I think there is a bunch. Another way said, I kept saying this because of the amount of teams that are in Europe. I think that middle bunch, probably 7th till about 12th, 13th, that's going to literally be like this constantly all season, because you're going to have teams go through a decent run, or they're away in Europe, then they're coming and playing home games and losing games they shouldn't. So, but I still think that between 5th and 7th, I think 5th is the absolute maximum.
Can I just say, but by the way, Blazer Razor, dude, listen, you've got to use your ears, mate. At no point did I say we need our best 11 to beat Fulham or Wolves. Like, let's not. I do like it, right? I do like it that absolute fucking imbeciles like you, I'll call it out, watch a show. You've clearly got the internet because you're on it, but your ears don't quite work. At no point did I say we need our best 11 to beat Wolves and Fulham. I'm saying that you've got to have your best 11 available more often than not if you want to finish higher up the table. So you've got to use your ears. If you don't, you just get I'll get rid of you. It's absolutely ridiculous because you've come back in again and said, Savva, justifying these results. I don't believe you've heard me justify any results at all. It's not my fault that you're a dickhead. So please just go and be a dickhead somewhere else. Dan, where are we? This squad, where is it?
Just quickly to that comment, I think we've said this to you before, that football chat is like an IQ test, isn't it, for a lot of people? And a lot of our fans seem to fail it.
Oh, this guy would fail an IQ test. He can't even, his ears don't even, at no point, Dan, have you heard me on this show justify losing to Fulham or Wolves?
That wasn't even a discussion.
Did I miss a couple of minutes of the show? Right? I'm really struggling.
I know, but this is the life of a YouTuber, Rain, is unfortunately you've got a lot of idiots that don't get it. And then you get people like Marios who think we should be top 4 with this squad. And this is, as I said, this is the younger fan base that don't understand what a good footballer is. If anyone looks at this Spurs squad and says this is top 4 and then sees Chelsea, Arsenal, City, Liverpool, Newcastle, Villa, Man United in that mix as well, you've got to have a day off. Top 4 at least. At least. I mean, what are we? What Marios? When did you turn into this guy? What on earth are you seeing that makes you think we're better than Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, or Chelsea? What is? Sorry, guys. I tell me if I'm being negative in the panel. What are these people seeing?
No, I just listen. The only way in a ridiculous world where we're ever finishing anywhere near a top 4 is if we've got no Europe this year. That's why I think people talking about United. I've seen a couple of people mention it in the chat. United have got certain players who are very, very good, but as a squad, in terms of the way that they play and their tactics, it's not. I wouldn't swap it for our squad. I wouldn't at all. And all of my in-laws, they're all Man United fans. And I was watching them today and they were all saying how they've got so many players that are nowhere near fitting that system, nowhere near good enough. So I wouldn't swap them for our squad at all, personally.
Where I would ask people like Marios to think about things is that we have had this season, we've had Fulham, Wolves and Bournemouth come to our ground and beaten us. Fulham, the game was over in 6 minutes. Wolves, we just about got a points with Palini's 94th minute goal. And Bournemouth played us off the park. Now, this is Tottenham Hotspur. We are miles off top 4. I predicted 6th. I thought 6th maybe we'll pick up a couple of players in the January window and this squad should get a seat. I think I have overestimated the quality of our squad.
I'm really torn.
Can I just make my last opinion because I've got to go. I've overstayed a bit. I think we're sort of about 8th to 10th, roughly. I'm a little bit more pessimistic than others. But if you took that lineup, Savva, that you brought up on screen and put that in front of a Brighton fan, a Bournemouth fan, a Palace fan, do you think any of the fans of those teams would go, yeah, I'm taking that team actually instead of ours? They might pick out 1 or 2 names. They might go, yeah, we'll have Van der Ven, we'll have Kudus off you. But that's about it. They're not looking at that team and going, yeah, we'd take that over our team. None of them. So why are we expecting to suddenly be a top 4 team?
But damn, we've got fans. You look, someone in my chat just said, yeah, but Savva, like Archie Gray would get in Fulham's midfield. And I'm thinking, no, he wouldn't get in a single Premier League midfield. Like
he was destroyed last night.
But this is where we're at, Dan. We've got fans that look at these players and truly overrate them. Now, in 2-3 years, we might be sitting here going, yeah, Gray's brilliant, Bergval's brilliant. But we've got fans that clearly don't watch players. Like, when you look at this, look what Sunderland are doing. Sunderland play once a week and have had a very good start to the season, right? They play once a week, mate.
They're only 4 points in front of us as well. Like, this is what I'm saying about it. Is in 2 weeks, if we go and some world we beat Newcastle and then we follow it up by beating Brentford, we're back again in the top 5 or 6 and not even being any good. Like, we've been poor in terms of the way that we've played, but still picking up points. So I feel like it's a little bit of a strange one. If you go through every single team, there are certain teams where I've always said the quality of the Premier League, they're all the bottom teams. They've got some superb players. They have done. But when you look at Palace, for instance, Chris Richards, I think, starts for them. Like, he's not an outstanding footballer, but he's in a system that works, that they've put good players around him. They cover that his weaknesses. So to make sure if he's lacking pace, for instance, they put Lacroix next to him, who's rapid. So it's all about putting it all. I think the problem with our team is that we've got so many players that are okay, but actually Spence is the prime example. I use him all the time. Left back, unbelievable when people are coming inside. The only problem is when he's on the ball, he's constantly coming inside, which means we've got no width. And he's also now coming into Palhinha, who Palhinha struggles when he wants to get the ball on a half turn and move it. So you've got so many players that don't really fit a system because we keep going out and buying players that don't fit a system because we swap the manager every 6 months. And then therefore it's not
like, what is the system? Sorry, Dan, you need to go, don't you? Sorry, mate, you need to go.
Yeah, I've got to jump.
Listen, lovely having you on. Thank you very much for coming on and make your debut. Appreciate it.
It was awesome to meet you all. Hopefully you'll have me back next time.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate you. Take care.
I would say we've seen loads of Sunderlands, Charlton, Ipswich, Norwich. We've seen so many clubs come have one, maybe two, half. In some cases, they've had half a decent season, and then hold your horses. Hold your horses on Sunderland. They're a very well-drilled machine at the moment, but it doesn't take much to trip clubs like that up. It doesn't.
Do you know what I think it is, Rain? I don't think people realise how far we've fallen whilst other clubs behind us have got better. So, for example, I'll use it honestly. This guy is the worst takes ever. When he's saying, look at Brighton and Villa. Do they have better players than us? Aston Villa do, yes. Aston Villa aren't starting players like Tell or Odeberg or Gray or Bergvall or Sarr, right? They're not starting Adogi and Porro as fullbacks. They're playing proper fullbacks. If you look at Villa, I use these guys all the time against us guys, right? Because it's pointless me going us versus Arsenal or us versus City.
Yeah.
But Aston Villa, right? Just so you know, when this team last played for Tottenham, do you know what Aston Villa were doing?
Championship, surely.
Right, they were in the Championship playoff final. And in 7 years, Aston Villa have come up and built a squad that's finished above us. If I'm not wrong, Lubo would tell me 3 years in a row, Aston Villa have finished above us. 3 years in a row, right? Now, I'm pretty sure that's right, Lubo, but feel free to...
Well, I can definitely confirm last year they finished above us because not many didn't.
But
and the year before.
Yeah. And the year before that?
I'll check.
Because when we finished fifth under Ange, didn't they get top four to get in Champions League?
Well, that
was they got fourth. They got fourth.
Year. The year before that, Conte.
No, that was
the year before that. We finished eighth because we dived after Conte left. We got something like 9 points from 8 games, and we went and we dropped, didn't we, from fourth to eighth? So let me just check 22-23 league table.
But I'd argue that if you match up the Brighton team, actually, you say, oh, it's Brighton. Well, it wasn't that long ago that the whole fan base was going, well, we need to be doing our talent acquisition like Brighton. And there's a good reason for that because they're very good at it. And I would argue that actually, if you start going player for player against the Brighton team, would we have Matoma on the left-hand side? Yeah. Would Richarlison or is it Mitte? Yeah. Once you start going player for player,
right? Exactly. This is my point.
Yeah, 3
when
years.
You act 3 years in a row, right?
Beat us by points, and they went into the Conference League.
So Villa have finished above us 3 years in a row, but we're still sitting here with fans going, do Villa have a better squad than us? Yes, they do. Why do they? Because Aston Villa don't go out and buy children. Aston Villa, what did they do when they came back into the Premier League? They sold Jack Grealish for the £100 million, right? And they started investing in pros. You look today, their midfield was Yuri Tillemans, Kamara, and McGinn. 3 footballers who walk into our midfield, right?
Yeah.
Now, bearing in mind, that doesn't even have a Nana in it. Morgan Rogers of Aston Villa walks into our team, right? Ollie Watkins of Aston Villa Not saying he's having a great year, but walks into our team. Martinez pisses all over Vicario as a goalkeeper. Right?
There are many fans saying that we should go and get Douglas Luiz, who Villa deemed surplus to requirements.
Yeah, they got rid of him for FFP, didn't they? They had to get rid of someone. They got rid of him for FFP. I don't think that they chose to get rid of him.
But they bought Onana with the money, Luke.
Yeah, but it's all about that balancing act, and there was that one at Everton and Aston Villa where they sold like a 19-year-old for 25 million each, and none of them had ever played a game.
It was the time. I mean, 3 years ago they beat us by a point. 2 years ago,
the point is,
Rain, it was 2 points, and last year it was 28 points.
But it's about structure.
Sorry, Luke. But the point still is, he was a Villa player, and our fans were desperate for us to go and get him. So it's just another example of a Villa player who we think is good enough to get into our side. That's the point, right? Not whether they sold him or had to sell him or whatever. It's the fact that our fans overrate our players and underrate the squads of
everybody else. See, but what you get is this, Rain. You get this. What have Villa won? What? No one's talking about. See, this is our fans, and this is half the problem, Rain. Because we won the Europa League, people equate that to our club being good, right? We finished 17th. In the last 3 seasons, Aston Villa have finished, what, 4th, 5th, 4th, 5th?
4th, 6th, and 7th. And 7th.
And they couldn't have finished 7th last year. They're in the...
3 years ago was 7th.
Oh, 7th, then 4th.
The year after that was 4th.
And now 5th.
And last season was 6th.
Right. So my harsh reality for fans is that every Spurs manager I've known has had to compromise. Has had to massively compromise. Poch did it. Yeah. Even in the 16-17 season, we got to the semi-final of the FA Cup. But apart from that, we bombed cups. And then we finished second with that team, right? Conte and Jose definitely did it, to try and get us into the top 4, and bombed cups. Ange compromised and effectively bombed the Premier League to get us to bet all on the Europa League, right? And so he betted the other way. He said, "I'm going to bomb the Premier League." He said it, and it was quite clear that that's what they did. To bet all on winning the Europa League, and fair play to him for doing it. So our fan base, who think that our squad is great because we've been here, and we won the Europa League, the harsh reality is that compared to clubs like Liverpool, Chelsea, dare I say it, Arsenal, but certainly Man City, those clubs actually compete on all fronts, as requested by Lubo's favourite ex-chairman. They do, because they go out and get squads which are capable of doing it. I've got to say something about Marius. I've been trying to say something about Marius. I've got a lot of sympathy and empathy for Marius, and he reminds me of that lad I was talking about in the back row, which is yesterday in front of me, because there was me, my season ticket neighbour, and no one else. Everybody else had sort of put their ticket on the exchange, and probably half of them had gone. Yeah, half of them had been taken up. And the lad in front of me had bought the season ticket holders for the granddad, dad, son group, who normally are in front. And he was so excited. He was like in his mid-20s. He was getting up. He was getting down. He was getting up. He was getting down. He was singing. He was so passionate, so passionate, and he was doing my head in, because every time he got up, I couldn't see a sodding thing. And it wasn't like he was getting up because there was a corner. He was getting up, getting down, getting up, getting down. He was, and I tapped him, and I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, "Look, mate, I know you're excited, but every time you get up, I can't see." But by the second half, he was like, "I'm really sorry." Yeah, it was really nice. By the second half, I looked at him and I thought, like Marius, as an old man, an old cynical man, Oh, do you know what, mate? I hope you actually never lose that passion. Even when we're playing like this, you're still going.
But Rain, passion is great. But again, these people like Marios that look at our squad and go, God, yeah, it's better than this guy has said we should be fourth minimum. So that means he thinks we should be higher. Which squads are you looking at in this Premier League and going, yeah, Spurs are better than City, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, Newcastle, Villa? Like, I feel like, listen, we can talk all day long about which managers are which manager is in charge, right? We can talk all day long, but we finished 17th last season. We're currently 12th, right? So either both Ange and Frank are dreadful, yeah? Or maybe I'll meet in the middle and go, Ange wasn't as bad as I made him out to be. Frank isn't as good. And maybe, just maybe, guys, that the players aren't as good as we actually rate them to be. Because this is years and years now of the players doing that. And we keep saying, look at this. Now I know you're trolling me. Only Arsenal and Chelsea and City got, sorry, not Liverpool with Isak, Wirtz, Salah, TK, Gakpo, McAllister. I mean, mate, you've now just shown yourself that you're not really, you're a troll. So sorry, I used to take you seriously. You're a troll. So guys, could it be that, Lubo, let me come to you. I know you need to jump in a minute. Are we going to have to, whoever the manager is, we can have this chat. Are we going to have to get to a stage where we actually realize that these players just aren't as good as everyone thinks they are?
It's been poor. It's been poor for 10 years. And I think we need to go through, unfortunately, some painful times and come out the other side. I looked at the back of the Arsenal programme for last Sunday's match. Arsenal had 26 players listed. 23 of them have come into the club since Arteta joined. There were only 3. I think it was Martinelli, and a couple of others that were there. I think Saka was one, and one more that were there when Arteta joined the club. He's cleared out 24 players, probably more, because some have come in and gone since then. We're way off. We're miles off. At the moment, we're 10th, 12th, maybe. That's where we are at the moment. Hopefully, things will improve. We'll have Solanke and Kulusevski, Dragusin coming back in soon. That will help the squad, help with rotation, substitutions. We'll hopefully, we'll have players who can come off the bench with impact. And we're miles off, guys. We are a long, long, long way off, and we're not in that 5th to 8th bracket with Newcastle, Villa, and United. I don't even think United are in that bracket, Sav. I think Newcastle and Villa are together. Newcastle are having a tough time. I mean, Newcastle level on points with us now. They're only 3 points off 4th place, I think, or 4 points, 5 points.
That's what I'm saying, Lubo. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying we're better than them. What I'm saying is that everyone's talking about Newcastle right now, and I understand that. The centre midfield's unbelievable. Their striker's great, as I said. They're a level on points with us at the moment, and we haven't been very good. So it's not like they have like a few players that are a level above us, but they've also got other players that are not great. Joe Linton, Lewis Miley started yesterday, but Bruno Guimaraes is the star in that midfield where you go, actually, if Spurs had him, maybe we go up 1 or 2 places straight away.
Well,
hang on,
right?
Look, you got Tonali.
So on yesterday's midfield was Miley, who I'd say Bergvall is levels above, not levels above, but I would say he's better.
Based on what is Bergvall levels above Lewis Miley? Based on what?
I said I would say levels, but I think that Bergvall was being chased by Barcelona and teams like that. Miley isn't. Can we stop using this whole Barcelona was getting Bergvall? Can we actually go by what we've seen him do
rather than who wanted him.
But Miley wasn't getting into Newcastle's team. He's only getting in now because they're resting players. So that midfield that they played yesterday, Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton, and Miley. If we had Bruno Guimaraes with Bergvall, then we're not talking about a completely different level of player. Like Tonali is completely levels above everyone. Bruno Guimaraes is the one standout there, but the other two are not great. Joe Linton's more
Tonali.
No, Tonali didn't play. So that's what I'm saying. Their midfield yesterday was Bruno Guimaraes, Miley, and Joe Linton. Bruno Guimaraes is a star, but the other two are average. If we had them players, we'd be going, they're useless.
Hang on. Hasn't Joe Linton been brilliant for a number of years in that Newcastle midfield?
He's very good. They've gave him a specific job of being a brute, running around, being physical, because he's put in a system that works. And that's what we need to do. We need to find a system that works for these players.
I don't disagree. We can't just turn around and say Joe Linton. Go on. See, Lubo drops.
Thanks, Sav.
On Spurs. See you later, mate.
Cheers, guys.
We can't just pretend like that. Joe Linton's been very good for Newcastle for a number of years now, hasn't he? Like, are we just?
He's been a cog of their midfield, but it's Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes that are the stars. If he played in our midfield, we would all be saying, "What is he? Why is he here? Like he's not good enough."
But then, I've got to say about Bergvall, right? Let's say about Bergvall. I'm just going to ask you, right, to just go and rewatch the first goal from yesterday. And it tells you everything about where Bergvall is. We rate him because he's got a good engine. I'm very clear. The reason he came to us instead of Barcelona is because Barcelona were going to put him in his B team, and we sold him to go in our first team.
Exactly.
But if you go and have a look at their first goal, and you look at Bergvall's situational awareness, everybody's criticising Porro, right, for the first goal. But actually, Porro did his job, in my mind. He actually shepherded the Fulham player away from the danger area.
Ryan, he was weak.
Just go and have a look at it. Bergvall just gets dragged to the ball and leaves Tete, or whatever his name is, behind him completely unmarked. The ball gets passed to him, and he puts it into the back of the net. Yeah. And that is what you get with a player like Bergvall, who's 18, 19, and has not had the level of experience that he needs.
Yeah, but you get the experience by playing. B, he's being played out of position. He's being played as an inside left forward, as an inside left winger. For what reason? He's a central midfielder. That's where he plays.
Is he a centre midfielder? Like, is he? What is he?
I think he's best at playing in a 3-man midfield. I think that's where he's best at. Probably, I'm not sure whether he'd be similar.
Just not overhyping him, Luke. I watch.
No, I'm not saying he's. Listen, I'm not saying he's outstanding.
Nothing I see makes me have this same praise that loads of our fan base. I just see another kid. I reckon you could put Tyrese Hall, who's on loan in the midfield. He'd do exactly the same as what Bergvall does. These boys run around a lot. If they make a few passes 5 yards, our fans go, "Cool, they were really good today." I'm watching it going, I don't know what they do. I don't know what he does. I don't know what Gray does. I don't know what Saar does. I don't know what they are.
No, and that's part of being in the correct system. That's what I'm trying to say to you. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. If you put them in a right system, there's certain players, when you're naming Aston Villa teams and things like that, there are certain players that if they was at our club right now, we'd be going, well, they're not good enough, because they're in a structure that allows them to be able to go and do what they need to do, even if it's just bring sixes and sevens.
That have been built, right, Luke? Structures that weren't there to begin with.
And
Joe Linton wasn't even a midfielder. So Eddie Howe's gone in there and over time gone, actually, hang on, you're not a striker. I'm going to make you a midfielder, and you are going to have this specific job in my midfield, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. But exactly, and we're talking about Bergvall as well. Last year, he's looking around at Bentancur, he's looking around at Basuma. This year, he's looking around at Palhinha going, does anyone want to get on the ball here? No, okay, maybe I've got to do it then. And it shouldn't fall to a 19-year-old. This is why we have so many problems, is because we're relying on Odobert, we're relying on Tell, we're relying on Bert. They shouldn't be the ones we rely on. There should be the experienced players that take on the mantle. And then these are just learning off of them, not having to take the game to everyone. And
this
you talk
goes
about
back
Bergvall,
down to the shit recruitment and not buying what we need.
100%. Look at the assists yesterday. None of them midfielders. Joelinton doesn't play that pass. Palinia doesn't play that pass. Bentancur doesn't play that pass because he's seen it.
Simple pass into him, mate. He's
seen the run well, but I'm not saying necessarily the technique to do it. I'm saying we, as midfielders, they wouldn't have that to go and try and do that. It would be, we'll just go short again. We'll go back. We'll go to the centre half, or we'll go to the left back.
I understand, but do you think Bergvall should be anywhere near a Tottenham Hotspur first 11? Please be brutally honest with me.
No. I don't think he should be. I don't think he should be. Again, we have, and I was about to say this earlier, we have a lot of players that would be very good as a player that comes in or comes off the bench, but they shouldn't be starting. Bergvall shouldn't be starting in your 11. He should be one that maybe comes in and plays the odd game here and there. Yeah, so if he was at Newcastle and their midfield was Joelinton, Bruno Gomes and Tonali, and then you're bringing Bergvall on, that's okay. But Bergvall shouldn't be then the one that you have to start every week. I don't see what.
I agree. For me, this is the thing. For me, a Bergvall, and you know when people are talking like my mate Marius in the chat saying, "Oh, we're better than all these squads." Bergvall doesn't get in to the Aston Villa squad. Bergvall doesn't get I've gone to Villa. I didn't even start with the big boys. Bergvall doesn't get in above one of their midfielders, does he? McGinn,
they play a slightly different system, don't they? A lot of their time is two in midfield, and I don't think he's a two in midfield player. No, I don't
sure,
think that.
But they often play three in there, don't they? So they often play Onana, McGinn, and Kamara, or Onana, McGinn, and Tielemans. My point is that proper football clubs that have built properly, right? Bergvall would have been bought in. Gray, exactly the same, by the way, Luke. If we had anything about us, we buy Gray and Bergvall and Tell and Odobert, right? By the way, if there's anything about us, we don't buy them. But if there's anything about us, we buy those young players. If we truly think they're good, we get them at low prices and we put them out on loan for a year or two. But we've not bought what we need, Luke, in midfield. I think we can all agree on that. And because of that, we got fans before every game saying, Gray and Bergvall have got to start today. And unfortunately, you saw yesterday, they were schooled by Fulham's midfield. And that's not, I'm not blaming them, Luke. I'm not. But again, we got fans that put these young kids on a pedestal before they've done anything to justify it.
Yeah, but I think it also comes down to who's the other option. Like, Palinia and Bentancur should not be starting in a midfield when you're at home against a team that haven't picked up a win away from all season. They shouldn't be your starting midfield. So, but who else do you bring in? The only other options are and this is what I'm saying about again the planning. And it was the same thing last year. What I was saying about all these young players, everyone was going, well, they should just be starting. It's like that's not how young players develop. They don't just go into unsettled sides where the tactics don't work or the structure's not in place, and you just play them and they play well. That's not how football works. It doesn't work like that. So, going into settled teams alongside experienced pros, where they know and they make the right choices and they learn from them, as opposed to being like what we've currently got.
Can I just what we're talking about is, do we want a brown, round smelly thing, or do we want a yellow round smelly thing? In our team, I don't want to say the words, right? But you can say it. We're arguing crap versus or do we want a yellow piece of shit, or do we want do we want it? It's and the fundamental problem is that our fan base has been sold the idea that we need to develop players, right? And we shouldn't need to develop players. And do you know what? I'm sorry. People mention, I know that Sav loves him as well, right? Savinho. People were going mad for Savinho in the summer, right? And they were going, oh, we need to go and get Savinho. We need to go and get Savinho. Savinho can't get anywhere near the Man City side, near the Man City team for a very good reason. And that's because he's not ready. He's not ready to be in the top half of he's not ready to be in a top Premier League team. I was there and we had Semenyo or Savio, and everyone's like, oh, Savio. I'm like, no, wait a minute. Semenyo, I've seen Semenyo for a few seasons come to us and play really, really well. I've seen him with my eyes in the Premier League do an absolute great job. That's the type of player who we need. And then he has a good game against Liverpool, and everyone's like, "Oh, we should have got Semenyo." Well, look, where were you 2 months ago when it was on the cards? But I will just say this, right? All of this, the manager tells players where to play. Do you think Pep Guardiola tells Doku how to play football? Do you think Pep Guardiola tells Haaland how to be a striker? Do you think Pep Guardiola tells Reinders how to play in midfield? No. What Manchester City do is they go, we need a midfielder. He's good. We'll get him. He comes in, and then they train together. They don't teach the player how to play football. They go and get a player who can already play football.
But Rain, I need to let Luke go just before I do, because I know Luke needs to jump off. Just before I do, but this is the worry, right? What you just said there about our fans think we need to develop everyone. That fans are talking like we are a newly promoted team. Look at the state of this. We can't spend like City or Chelsea, right? Right. So we have to have good recruitment and young talents blossom. Okay. So how did Aston Villa go and get Kamara, Tielemans, and Onana? How did Newcastle get Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes?
Free transfers, by the way. Free transfers, Kamara and Tielemans.
But Luke, my point is not, I've never said we can match City and Chelsea, but why are we making out that it's either world-class players or 19-year-olds that have to learn and grow? Newcastle went out and bought what they needed, right? Voldemort is what, 23. They went and got they went and got Alanga, who had been a season pro for 4 or 5 seasons by that point, right? Tonali, Guimaraes, Botman, Dan Burn, Kieran Trippier. So how can Newcastle do it, but we're one of the richest clubs in the world, and we got fans like Josh saying, yeah, but the only way we can get better is to buy young kids and develop them. If that's the case, shouldn't fans, sorry, Luke, just before we go, please answer me this. If that's the case and fans truly believe that, then surely we should get off of every manager's back, not worry about league position, because we're saying we're only good enough to sign 19-year-olds.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, people talk about City now because City have been absolutely incredible for years. Well, I remember when City first got their money, they signed players like Alano because they weren't there. So they had to go to there, to go to there, to go to, that's how football works. You tend not to sign a player at 19 and then keep him till 29 and he becomes a world star. Normally there's loads of transfers in between and it will go to a bigger club or a better club. So that's not, we need, say for instance, our players are currently 5s. We need to go and sign 6s and 7s. And then once we get to 6 and 7, we can start worrying about 8s and 9s. You don't go from being a 5 to signing 10s. That's not how football doesn't work that way unless you get an unbelievable amount of money. So we can improve on this squad incrementally. That's what we have to do. And this goes back to what I said earlier.
About something else, Luke. You're talking about something else. You're talking about spending. You're talking about buying top class players.
No, I'm not talking about that. That's what I'm saying. We don't need to go and sign £100 million players right now. When you sign your £100 million players, that's when you've got squads. You've got a squad of players that are at a level of an 8, and you go and get the star player on the top of that. We can go and sign players that are £30 million that improve this squad.
I don't agree. I don't agree. I just fundamentally don't agree. I think we need to be signing 60 to 100 million pound players and players who are of that quality. I think if we're signing 30 million pound players, then we deserve to finish 14th to 8th.
But we just named Aston Villa's midfield. Tielemans, Kamara, John McGinn cost them £2.5 million. Like you don't have to go and spend hundreds of millions of pounds to.
No,
you do on the star players. You do on the star players. Were they? Because Tielemans was available and played in the Premier League for years, and there wasn't many fans going unbelievable, but Aston Villa have signed him. That's unbelievable. So I don't feel like that's the case. Again, they've gone into a structure, they've gone into a system that works, that's allowed them to flourish. Kamara's unbelievable. He is ridiculous. Free transfer from France. Like, this is what I'm saying. You don't have to go and spend £100 million every game, every signing for players to be unbelievable. That doesn't.
Hang on, aren't you both right?
Talking about money. You're the one who's talking about money. I don't care about money.
I don't care about money.
What I care about is oven-ready players who are ready to come and play in the first team, not 18 or 19-year-old Bergvall and Gray, who then we have to develop. And I'm sorry, mate, but you did say, they don't develop unless they play. Well, yeah, but why does it have to be in our team? Is my point.
I didn't mention money once. You mentioned money. I said if our squad's at a 5, we need to go and sign 6s and 7s. You said we need to go and sign £100 million players.
You said 30 million.
Hang on, guys, can I meet in the middle? Guys, can we meet in the middle? For me, surely this shouldn't be about how much the footballer costs. We've seen so many good players that cost 100 million that have been shit. We've seen so many good players that were frees or 10 million, 15, 20 million. For me, this boils down to Spurs need some senior pros. Spurs need to scout properly, and Spurs need to make use of the free transfer market, which is something we never really do. And we need to not be scared to go out. If an opportunity comes up for a top player and they're 80 million, we at some point need to go, yes, we will do it. Because Declan Rice has transformed Arsenal's midfield, right? Because you know what you're getting when you go and spend 100 million on Rice. The rest of the world all laughed. What a waste of money. He's one of the best midfielders in Europe, right? So for me, I think it needs to be a mixture. But what I am sick of, and I'll let you go, Luke. What I am sick of is too many fans talk like we are a breeding ground for young players. We are Tottenham Hotspur in the Premier League. This is not a ground. This is not a club where we should be going, shouldn't we just develop 19-year-olds? No. Why should we? If you are 19 and good enough, get in that first 11. If you are not, don't be in the first 11. Go out on loan or come on for the last 10 minutes. But what we've got is fans calling for Bergvall, fans calling for Gray, fans calling for Tell, fans going, I want to see Donnelly. I want to see Mikey Moore. Lancashire should get a game. Vuskovic should come back. But then they want to sack a manager because we're not fourth. Well, what do you want? Do you want to be a top team or do we want to be a youth breeding ground? Which one is it?
That is a big question. What are Spurs? What do fans consider what Spurs are currently? Do they consider it? Are they crazy and consider us a top 4 team? Do they think that we should be a top 6 team every year? Do they think we're a top 8? What are we? We don't know this at this moment in time because this new ownership, what the manager is, what they've brought in. Are we sure on where we're heading and what we're going to do? I'm not so sure we know that at this moment in time.
I think we know exactly. It was told to us in the summer. We want to be winning Premier League. We want to be winning cups. When you go on TV and you tell that to fans, is it unreasonable that fans have that level of expectation and that fans are paying the highest ticket prices? It have to count it, right, in the stadium. Is it unreasonable of the fans to have the level of expectation of what they've been told?
Oh, well, yeah, when you look at the squad, yeah.
No. What they were told by the board. They were told by the board, we want to win the Premier League. And,
but they didn't put a timescale on that. They didn't say we want to win the Premier League this year, did they? They said we want to win the Premier League. That's the aim. And we've all criticised the ownership to say we never know what we want to get to. So they're what they're targeting. They're saying they want to become league champions. That's what they want to do. But they weren't meaning this year or next year, quite clearly, because I mean we're not signing players good enough to get to that level. So it depends on what you want to become.
Yeah, I'm bored of signing. Listen, if you're going to sign 19, 20-year-olds, they've got to be 19, 20-year-olds that are good enough that come in and you go, they are much better than anything we've got. I'm just really bored of constantly. Now, last comment before you go, Luke. Sorry, this is Josh. You really haven't done your homework. Nico O'Reilly is nearly 21, right? And he's playing around loads of top players. Jamie Bino-Gittins is nearly 22. And has been a pro footballer since the 2021 season. So this is his 5th season as a pro footballer, right? Garnacho played 4 seasons for Man United in the Premier League and now his 1st season at Chelsea, right? There's a huge difference between that and bringing in Bergvall from Sweden and go straight into the Spurs first team. Listen, these clubs that you've just mentioned are all better than us for a reason. They've got top players littered throughout their teams. My only issue, guys, is our fans want everything. They want us to be a youth breeding ground. Plus, they want to be challenging for top 4. Plus, they want £100 million play. What is it that they want us to be? I'm really confused now as to what we want to be. Sorry, Luke. I know you need to go, mate. I know you need to go. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll see you later. I feel like one of the things for me, Rain, is I think that we've bought so poorly as a club for so many years now that it's almost ingrained and it's kind of brainwashed a section of the fan base, right? To think that this is the way forward. To think that the only way Spurs can get players is to buy them young and develop them. I'm sorry, this is absolutely ridiculous. What on earth are we doing here?
It's the classic. It's, we buy Odobert and Tell, and we're doing well because I don't care. We've signed them at the right age. We've clearly got them for half decent money. And I'm very, I've worked in finance all my life. I know that there's a budget at Spurs for players. We don't go above it. So rather than buying one very good player who's ready, which to be fair, I think we tried to do with Zabby, it's just a little bit too late. We, in the past, and it is historic, we've gone and got 2 younger players, 2 or 3 younger players in the hope that they develop. And if you go back to that Poch team that you had up, there were so many younger players, which Poch was trying to get. Every single one of our managers has had to compromise and come back to that, right? And the problem is, we as fans, we don't want to compromise. So which is why we're arguing about Ange, and why people were like so upset with Frank when he said we finished 17th. He was saying we finished 17th because it's an indicator of how good this squad is. Ange, I'm very clear, Ange did an amazing job to get this team to win a trophy. And Frank has now got exactly the same problems as Ange had. This squad, right? And he is trying to compromise.
Without the Europa League, right? Look, and this is Josh. This is where we will agree, mate. I know I bring up some of your comments. I don't know if I do trust Paratici to replace Frank adequately. Look, as Josh, just in case you weren't early in the show, I've said the same thing. All right, I've said the same thing all along. First of all, I think it's way too early to sack the manager. However, we all know how this works. We're all adults. We all know that if performances don't improve, you're going to get sacked, right? My question is this, Josh, for anyone, right? And it lays into what you said there. Who do you replace with? Now, it's what I mean by this, Josh, right? Is lots of people can chuck in names of managers they like. But do we actually, before we chuck the names in, Rain, do people actually take a step back? Are they thinking as a football fan, I like this manager? Or are they taking a step back and thinking, how achievable is that? Like, what I mean by that, Rain, is right now, some of the names I see, go and get Iriola, right? Go and get Glasner. So do we think those managers are leaving their clubs in November, December, right? When I think Glasner's contract definitely runs out in the summer, right? Glasner's contract runs out in the summer. He'll be able to go wherever he wants. Palace are doing well. Right now, what would be the go for him to leave? Do you know what I mean? People are just throwing names, but we are mid-season. So the pool that we've got to pick from, Rain, is that, not that. I think
it's like I've been in a coma for 5 years because I'm cursed with a half decent memory, and I remember 72 days of searching through God knows how many managers before we landed on Nuno, right? And we only got rid of Nuno because Paratici had Conte already ready. We actually only got rid of Poch because Jose was already ready and there. But we sacked Jose. We sacked Nuno 4 months into in around about now, right? Into his tenure. We sacked Conte for telling the truth, and managers still remember managers will still remember what Conte said. We went on a merry-go-round and ended up with you can't see I'm doing my hand. We went on a merry-go-round and ended up with Ange, probably 5th or 6th choice. And then we sacked him after he won us the Europa League, and he managed to get us the Europa League. We're going to sack Frank, who did a decent job for the level that Brentford were at, for their expectations for 7 years. Never been sacked, Frank. 4 months in, and we think that managers are going to come to our club and think, oh, this is a club that's going to back. This is a club where I can build a career and move forwards, especially halfway through the season. Is it heck? Fans are absolutely deluded.
Can I add the other part to that? Can I add the other part to that, Rain? Listen, I'm all for, as football fans, we all like to play the game like it's Football Manager, right? Who would you pick? As though we can just go and pluck whatever manager we want. I love that. That's brilliant. We can play that game. But in reality, we all know it doesn't quite work like that. Secondly, this is where I think fans are at a loggerheads with themselves. So I have seen fans that in one breath say, don't want Frank, we don't want a pragmatic manager, we want to play really good football. Then when I ask them, right, which manager do you want? They say things like Glasner. And I'm like, well, listen, I like Glasner as well, but Glasner's not the guy that's going to give you the football you want. Glasner doesn't play free-flowing football. Glasner's a very good organizer, gets his team very well drilled. They're hard to beat, but this isn't a guy that plays really good football. So what will happen is, I can tell you right now, as I said, Ray, I like Glasner, but what would happen is you bring in a Glasner, hypothetically, when we realize, okay, we're hard to beat, we play the wing backs, that when we realize that he never changes from the wing backs either, our fans will then go, oh, why isn't the football more progressive? Right? Why isn't he coaching young players? Why are we not attacking? Right? People will then slowly but surely realize, because he's not an attacking manager. Now, let's go to an attacking manager, Rain. And sorry, I'm going to vent a little bit here. Let's go to the attacking manager. Let's go to someone like Xavi, right? Xavi Hernandez, the ex Barcelona manager and player. Mm-hmm. Xavi Hernandez, his teams play a nice brand of football on the eye, possession-based, tick-attacker, if you will, keep the ball, lots of possession, make the other team chase the ball, lots of passing. Do we believe that this fan base, if Xavi turned up to this squad, right, that in training session 1, he's not going to look and go, these guys can't play my way, so I'm going to need to get to the summer and bring in loads of players who are technically proficient? Are our fans going to turn around and go, that's all right, we'll wait till the summer? Or are they going to do what we're doing now? So I've got lots of reservations about, if the manager goes, he goes. I'm a grown man. I'm not going to cry about it. If the manager goes, he goes. But these are the 3 words I'm asking everybody. Ready? What's the plan? What's the plan? Because whoever the new manager is that would come in needs time, needs transfer windows, right? And will be inheriting this squad. So I don't think we've got the patience for it with anyone.
So my plan is 3 words as well. Get better players. That's it. It's I honestly don't think. I think I've said this on other places. I don't think there's a fairy god manager out there who can wave their magic wand and turn these mice and pieces of garlic into, you know, this incredible team that everybody wants. The way that Pep, Klopp, Arteta, Wenger, Poch, the way that all these people, the way that all these managers got better performances was with better players.
Mate, it's not. Football isn't rocket science. Football isn't rocket science, right? What we're going to do, listen, as I said, this isn't about defending Thomas Frank because, listen, Rain, I'm old and ugly enough now in my life to know, right, that we can talk about styles of play. We can talk about systems. We can talk about players. Results will dictate whether or not a manager keeps his job at the end of the day, right? Mm. Results. Even Ange won the trophy, but the results in the Premier League dictated he went. The results for Thomas Frank will dictate whether or not he keeps his job. That's the same, insert anyone's name. My worry is that how many managers will have to come and go before we realise that we need better players? Now, I can't be a hypocrite, right? Ange had us down in 17th and lost nearly every week. I wanted him out. If Thomas Frank, as we get deeper into the season, is doing the same, I will want that man out. But wouldn't it be nice just for once to see a manager get to build their own 11? Wouldn't it be really nice to get to see a manager build their own 11? Now, it doesn't have to be Frank, right? But the next manager, if we are going to talk about the next manager, will need to build an 11. And the problem that we've got is all the while we've got fans screaming and shouting, people like Matt and Marius in my chat, thinking that we're better than all these other teams, Rain. They believe these footballers are better than they are. So immediately it's the manager. There's only so much. Any manager that comes into this club now with this squad, I'm going to expect the bare minimum. I'm going to expect the bare minimum. No goal scorer in the squad, right? No goal scorer. No good left winger. The midfield for me is pony. The fullbacks are poor. The goalkeeper's poor. But don't worry. Let's bring in Xavi. And Xavi, in one training session, will have Spurs playing tiki-taka. It's...
Yeah, I think the answer to how many more managers do these people want is always just one more. Just one more. The next one. It's the next one is going to fix the problem. It's the problem is this manager.
Is he the guy before the guy before the guy before the guy before the guy?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You know, and you lose track of that over some point. It's the next guy. It's you keep spinning the wheel until it works. Despite the fact we've got plenty of evidence that spinning the wheel doesn't work. In fact, the way that it works is I don't know who that's saying that.
I definitely don't think he's the saviour at all in any way, shape.
The way that successful clubs work is the most important person at the club is the manager. When Pep has a problem with the player leaves. The player is the one who leaves. When Ferguson had a problem with Roy Keane, he was gone.
Yeah.
Right? He was gone. When Ferguson had a problem with Beckham, gone. You know, he sold him. And when Wenger had problems with players, he just sold them. He just got rid of them. That's the way that when Klopp decided, or when Liverpool decided that Coutinho was serviceable, they just sold him. Just got rid of him. Right? He was probably one of their best players. Just got rid of him. Yeah, and we've got to the point where we've decided that the manager is the thing that you can change and you can modify, and the players have to stay the same. And then we're surprised when we still have bozo moments on the pitch. We're surprised when we still have variable performances. It doesn't make sense.
Look, I'd say this, right? And then I'm going to wrap up in the next 5 minutes. I would say this. I'm of the opinion, Rain, always have been, Spurs is my love, right? Not the manager that holds the hot seat, not the owners, not the chairman, not the players. Spurs are my love because I've seen players manage everyone come and go, right? So I will always want what's best for Tottenham rather than my opinion on a manager or a player. So these people going, oh my God, you're downhill for Frank. I won't. Thomas Frank will get the sack if results don't improve. I am prepared for that. I'm sure many people are. I am comfortable with that, Rain. I just want to know that when people say things like anyone, like I ask people, who do you want? Anyone's better. Well, sure, but that's not really a plan for a Premier League football club, right? When I hear things like now the name being bandied about by everyone is De Zerbi, right? And it's like, well, hang on, De Zerbi. No one's talked about De Zerbi for ages. Now all of a sudden it's De Zerbi, but then I hear we want proven winners. And I'm like, okay, well, what's De Zerbi done? He's won the Ukrainian Cup, right? So I don't think our fans truly know, Rain, whether they want a winner, whether they want pretty football, whether they want a coach. I just think at the moment, everyone is so frustrated that whatever name is in vogue, right, gets the shout. So last month, Iriola was the guy, right? Last month, Iriola was the only name I saw. This month, I'm seeing Reggie Labrie, right, of Sunderland. Suddenly, because Sunderland had a good 13 games coming up, now he's the guy. Now it's De Zerbi because De Zerbi's top above PSG in League. We can't keep doing this.
I can't even remember his name. What was the Ipswich guy last season?
Kieran McKenna.
Right, okay. I couldn't even remember his name, but
right.
He was flavour of the month. Right?
Yeah, it's fine. And look, when you're saying, but Josh, you can't speak for all fans, which is why I asked the question. Because some fans will fight tooth and nail and go, we need a winner, need a winner, need a winner. And then in the very next breath, I'll take Iriola. Okay, well, sorry, is Iriola a winner now? Like people don't seem to know what they want. And that's fine. But if we do that, right, what will happen is the new manager's going to start. Let's just say, Rain, for example. Let's say, just this hypothetical game, Spurs sack Frank and Iriola, right, comes in next week. When it doesn't go well, the first sign of it not going well with Iriola, all the same excuses will come out. It will be 1, he's never managed a big club before. 2, he's a Bournemouth type of manager. You know the way Frank's a Brentford type. He's a Bournemouth type of manager. 3, we should have looked at the data before. His teams concede loads of goals. This is the problem. Some things seem nice and shiny now. But this fan base, all of us, by the way, we all seem to want something very different. And we've tried everything. We tried the experience of Harry Redknapp. We tried the exuberance at the time of an AVB and a Pochettino. We've tried Jose and Conte as out-and-out winners. We've tried pragmatic managers in Nuno, Thomas Frank. What is it that we want from the next manager? What is it that we want?
What we haven't tried is to give a manager like 4 or 5 years. Well, since Poch. Is Poch the only... Wait a minute, I seem to recall Poch is the only manager under ENIC who got a contract renewal. If I think I'm right in saying.
I know he's the only manager that did over 4 years, right? I think Redknapp did 4, and then I think Poch did 6. I think they did a decade between them.
Yeah. So I think the thing that we haven't done is give a manager time.
Yeah. And Rain, I'm not saying it has to be Frank, but at some point, By the way, at some point with the squad we've got, a manager is going to put us through pain, right? And right now we're going through pain, and the first sign of pain, and it's he's got to go. That's fine, but we're going to end up sacking managers a hell of a lot. And you know what that will mean? We're then not going to be very attractive to players coming in, right? Or to new managers joining the club, because they're going to look at us and go, this is a short-term payday, right? We're going to be getting managers who think, I'll get sacked in 18 months and I'll get a £10 million payoff. Now, I'm not saying, because people won't listen to this bit, doesn't have to be frank, right? But when people say, like, look at this, I want to go through that pain with Areola. That's fine. But look at Areola's record defensively. It's dreadful. His teams concede loads and loads and loads of goals. If he did that at Spurs, people would go, we've hired a manager that can't sort out. So I don't know. I don't know what the right are. I'm not saying I don't like Areola, but there's going to be pros and cons to every single manager that people talk about.
That's a cracking comment. I love that. It's a cracking comment. It's like I want to go through. I want to go through the pain of being with that nutter, and not this nutter that I'm currently.
Yeah.
With, you know? It's like, you know.
I mean, when you were saying Areola, someone said Areola only conceded 46 last season. I mean, 46 isn't amazing, but sure. What's he already conceded this season? He's already conceded half of that in a third of the season. He's conceded 23 goals. His Bournemouth team keeps going 2-0 up, and then they keep losing. So, look, I'm not knocking Areola. I like Areola. But again, bringing Areola, and people are all going to say, what's he won? Is he big enough? He never plays 2 games a week. All of the same things they're saying about Frank, they're going to say about Areola. I can guarantee you, all right, the football might be a bit nicer on the eye rain, but I don't know. I don't know the answer.
I'm in the same place. I'm not. I'm long enough in the tooth that I remember being let down by Judas, you know, and from that point on, I never really had any kind of parasocial relationship with any players. Never, not even Kane or Son. And it's about my football club, and how we can get the best. So I'm not tied to Frank, but I just know that at some point we need to give a manager time. It may well have been Ange. I thought Ange's time was clearly up, mainly because of the way that he responded back to the fans. I thought that was that you know, like at the Chelsea game and so on and so forth. There are plenty of examples, but and it may well not be Frank. I don't really care if it's Frank, Ange, or Areola. I just know that at some point, as a fan base and hopefully as a board, we need to do what City did with Pep. If Pep's Pep, but City did with Pep. Arsenal did with Arteta, Liverpool did with Klopp, and see through a not good first season, and buy well for 2 or 3 windows, and hopefully come out you know, a better team in the following 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm gonna do some super chats and wrap up there. Look, all I'll say is this: we've got a tough week coming up. At the moment, I can't see where the next win comes from, and I have a feeling that in the next month we're going to be having more shows, a drama about a new manager, about who we're going to hire. I'm not saying it's the right thing, but football is very, very quick to turn. So we're going to see. Let me do some super chats. Yeah, Rain, you take care, mate. Let me do the super chats. Thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate you. Big up to everyone. Let me have a look. Super chats. Big up to Jordan. He's far too generous to me. Said, thanks so very much, mate. Says Tottenham have taken 17 points from the last 22 home Premier League games. So 17 points from possible 66, which is an absolute abomination. Ange and Frank, different styles, yet the players look clueless no matter what is asked of them. And I think, Jordan, this is where, yeah, as I said, maybe if I was a bit harsh on Ange, maybe. But I hear it's because we don't attack more. But when we did attack last season, look how many home games we lost then as well. So I don't know what the answer is. Big up to you, Jordan. Big up to Mark Taylor. Much love, my man. He said, I think Frank has been changing the system and players for the fans. I think he needs to stick with what he wants now. Mate, I agree. I think he needs to shut out the noise. Stop worrying that fans are asking for Gray or Bergvall or play what you want to play and let the team build and grow. Big up to you, Mark. Really appreciate you. Josh has said, when was the last time a Spurs squad had such little footballing IQ and technical ability? Till this drastically improves, then this is our level. Josh, bang on. I've not seen a squad for many years with such little technical ability or goal scorers. It's so poor. Big up to you, my man. Big up to Paul Langley, always with a super sticker. Thanks, Paul. Really appreciate you, mate. As I do with Emma Morton. Really appreciate you as well, Emma. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. Also, a new member, JC. Big up to you. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you in more member shows as the season goes on. Thank you very much. Big up to Daniel Field. I don't know, it's just said Silly Willy. Big up to you. I have no idea what you're talking about, but thanks, Dan. Really appreciate you. Alex Smith said, you said Arteta got rid of players. Maybe Frank should get rid of the Deadwood and maybe Spurs will be up there more. Yeah, I mean, don't you have to give Thomas Frank some transfer windows to get rid of the Deadwood? Surely, like, don't you have to give him some time to get rid of them? And players, and and clubs need to want to buy them. Big up to you. Thank you very much, Alex. Big up to Daniel Marlowe, who said, we are miles off it. Get ready for 2 or 3 seasons of gash. I've got a feeling. I will back Frank if the club back him post-leave year. We in transition. At some point, Daniel, I think you're right. I think it's going to be a couple of years of tough watching, whoever the manager is. And then maybe on the other side, we start to see improvement. But yeah, the club have got to back him. Big up to you. Really appreciated, Andy. Thank you very much. I said, in 32 years of watching this club, I've never felt so apathetic towards it. The players, manager, and now some of the fan base isn't good enough. Now the only top thing is the prices. Yeah, mate, listen, we're in a bit of a mess from top to bottom, aren't we? And I don't know how we solve it. I don't think just sacking Frank solves it. We can get a new manager. We're going to need to get a lot more right. Big up to you, Andy. Thank you very much. And last but not least, Jordan, you are way too generous to me. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. So Tottenham have beaten Fulham, haven't beaten Fulham in 4 attempts and haven't beaten Wolves in 6 attempts. Yet our fans see our shambolic recruitment and still go into these games thinking we should batter these clubs. Jordan, this is the problem. When I see children who don't know a lot about our club, like Marius in the chat saying, we've got a much better squad than them, and them, and them, and them, and them, and them. I look at the squad and go, this is not a good squad. And I don't know if it's because they're children and they've not seen many squads. But him and Matt just say such silly things all the time. And they're the fans you're talking about. They look at our recruitment and then look at these teams and go 4-0 today. Why? What? Why? Big up to you, my man. Very, very generous indeed, Jordan. Guys, I'm going to send you over to Big Six Bants. When you get over there, just say Savva Raid or fhtv Raid. Jordan Too Hot. I didn't see your super chat, my man. I haven't seen one from you. Big up to you guys. Much love. Take care. And as always, come on, you Spurs.